What if the person Peter Parker loves most is running out of time? Think about this for a second. Have you ever watched a movie knowing deep down that the character you're rooting for with everything you've got is about to suffer? That tight feeling in your chest that shows up before anything even happens on screen. That's exactly what Marvel seems to be building around MJ, Zendaya's Michelle Jones, in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And this isn't guesswork. It isn't fan desperation. It's a pattern Marvel repeats whenever it wants to change everything at once. Let's break it down. When No Way Home ended, Peter Parker lost absolutely everything. His identity was erased from everyone's memory. Ned doesn't remember him. Aunt May died. And MJ, that MJ who fought by his side, who figured out who he was, who chose to stay, has absolutely no idea who that sad-eyed guy is, the one who showed up at the window of her coffee shop. It's one of the cruelest endings Marvel has ever delivered. And it was beautiful precisely because of that. But here's the thing. Brand New Day can't simply undo all of that. Marvel knows that reconnecting Peter and MJ in the obvious way would be a massive narrative step backward. So, what would they do? What any good writer would do when they need to truly transform a character. They take away something he hasn't lost yet. There's a theory that's been gaining traction among the most attentive fans, and it rests on three pillars that, when you line them up side by side, are hard to ignore. The first pillar is the title. Brand New Day isn't a random name. In the comics, that arc was what happened after One More Day, when Peter made a deal with Mephisto to erase his marriage to Mary Jane from existence. Marvel's comics literally destroyed the most important relationship in Peter's life just to start over from scratch. Brand New Day in the comics was exactly that, a Peter Parker untethered from the world, without MJ, rebuilding a life that felt empty even when it was supposed to feel new. If the adaptation follows that same emotional logic, Brand New Day in the MCU could be about Peter learning to exist in a world where MJ is there, but doesn't belong to him, or worse, in a world where MJ no longer exists at all. The second pillar is the franchise's own pattern. Marvel has a very specific habit. When a supporting character starts growing too important, when the audience starts loving them too much, when that person becomes the hero's emotional anchor, that's when the clock starts ticking. Gwen Stacy died that way. Aunt May died that way. Peter Parker's love is, narratively speaking, a death sentence. And MJ has reached a point where she represents everything Peter lost and everything he still might have. She is the character's emotional horizon. In screenwriting terms, that has a name. She became the objective, and objectives in a hero's story exist either to be won or to be destroyed. The third pillar is what Zendaya said and what she didn't say. In several recent interviews, when asked about her future in the MCU, she was evasive in a different kind of way. Not the standard, I can't talk about spoilers evasiveness. It was that pause before answering, that smile that seems to be holding something heavy inside. Could be nothing, but in a universe where every detail is calculated, those pauses tend to mean something. Now, for the theory itself, the most developed idea circulating in the forums goes like this. Brand New Day will bring the Goblin, probably Harry Osborn or a new version of the character, as the central villain, and that villain will do exactly what Norman Osborn did to Gwen Stacy in the comics. He'll use MJ as a weapon. He'll target her not by accident, but because he found out who Peter is, because at some point in the film, the veil will drop and someone will know that quiet Peter Parker who works days and disappears at night is Spider-Man. And when that villain finds out and wants to destroy Peter from the inside out, he won't aim at the hero. He'll aim at what makes him human. There's another version of this theory that's even crueler and honestly more interesting from a narrative standpoint. In this version, MJ doesn't die at the villain's hand. She dies as a consequence of a choice Peter makes. He has to face an impossible decision, save her or save other people. And Marvel does what it always does when it wants to show a hero has truly grown. It puts him front of real sacrifice. Not the sacrifice of giving up a job or missing a party, the sacrifice of giving up the person. That would be devastating. It would also be the only thing that could make Brand New Day as impactful as No Way Home, which many people already consider the best Spider-Man movie ever made. But there's a serious counterargument to this theory, and it's only fair to bring it up. Zendaya has become, in the broadest sense of the word, a cultural phenomenon. She's not just a Marvel actress, she's one of the most recognized people on the planet right now. Killing MJ would be a commercially risky decision, and Marvel, as bold as it likes its narratives to be, is still a company with billions on the line. It's possible that Brand New Day uses MJ in a different way, doesn't kill her, but places her in a position where she and Peter are so close and yet so far apart that her absence hurts just as much as her death would have. That would actually be equally powerful, maybe even more sophisticated. Picture the scene, Peter watching MJ from across the street. She's laughing at something. She's okay. She's happy in a life that has no room for him. And he walks away without her ever knowing he was there. That scene, without a single drop of blood, could break the heart of anyone who has ever loved someone from a distance. Marvel is capable of that. It's done it before. What makes this discussion so fascinating is what it reveals about Peter Parker's journey in the MCU. Unlike the classic comics version of Peter Parker, who carried guilt from the day he let the thief escape, this MCU Peter went through something different. He lived his guilt collectively, shared, softened by the presence of Tony Stark, Nick Fury, Ned, and MJ. And then, in No Way Home, he was stripped of all of it. He was truly alone for the first time. Brand New Day is the real test. It's where we find out if this Peter can be a hero without a safety net, without anyone's memory, without blood family, without a mentor, and maybe, just maybe, without MJ. Because Spider-Man, at his purest core, is a character about loss, about carrying on anyway, about putting the mask back on even when nothing makes any sense anymore. And if Brand New Day wants to truly honor that, it's going to need to take from Peter whatever he still has left, whatever still smiles at him without knowing who he is. There's one last piece of this theory worth paying attention to. The full title of the comics arc came with a phrase the writers used as the entire project's guiding philosophy. The idea was simple and brutal at the same time. Sometimes the truest love someone can show is to disappear from the life of the person they love just to protect them. Maybe Brand New Day won't kill MJ. Maybe it'll do something harder, make her leave by her own choice after discovering who Peter is and what being Peter Parker actually means. That she loves him enough to know that staying close to him is far too dangerous. That would be a twist no fan would see coming, and it would be honestly heartbreaking in a way that death never could be. Brand New Day still has so much mystery ahead. Very little has been officially revealed, but the narrative Marvel has built across 3 films points to one thing with striking clarity. Peter Parker hasn't hit rock bottom yet, and if MJ is the last light he has left, how long before that light goes out?